All right. Email from Donna. I am currently in chemo and have purchased the powdered essential greens, reds, and oranges as part of my chemo diet. Forcing myself to drink all of these dissolved powders can get tough. Do you have any fruit and vegetable capsules that I could take with plain water instead? Also, what are the most nutrient-rich foods that a patient should try to eat if they can? Okay, this is a layered question here. Chemo is a serious situation. What is different about a chemo diet from a normal diet?
Quick and dirty. I mean, there's not a ton that's going to be different. I just think maybe you're just going to employ slightly different strategies for this person, as far as how they approach maybe an upcoming chemo infusion. But it's not like you're going to be recommending 3 times the amount of protein, 6 times the amount of vegetables, three times less of this nutrient for somebody who's on chemotherapy versus who isn't. It's just there's going to be some nuance maybe with timing, tolerance, and so what's
the problem? What's the roadblock?
Yeah,
so I think tolerance.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is if we just kind of start at the top, like what is chemotherapy? What happens with chemotherapy?
Yeah.
So if in the quickest way possible, chemotherapy, typically somebody has to go inpatient for a day or two for a few hours to have chemo, or whatever's treating their cancer infused. And so we know with chemo, these medications aren't generally well tolerated. So you have people coming home with fatigue, hair loss, pain, poor appetite, throat sores, mouth sores, nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, central nervous system effects like tingling, peripheral neuropathy, burning, all those kind of things. So the way at least that I interpreted this, or the way I would approach it, is you look at all those things and you just say, from a dietary perspective, what can we do and what can we hone in on to maybe mitigate some of those as best we can. Now, we know for sure you're not going to be able to mitigate them all from a dietary perspective.
Right.
So again, it's just most important to say, like, what the heck's happening here with chemo? And so that's, in a quick and dirty, what's happening. So what do we do? I think if we look at it maybe in 3 ways, you say, what do we do pre-treatment? What do we do shortly post-treatment? So like in maybe the hours to, day or 2 after infusion, and then looking at general habits.
Okay.
So pre-treatment, we want to, and to go back to your point, we want to stick with things that are tolerable. So foods that don't upset your stomach, things that you can eat and keep down, especially if your therapy has the tendency to make you feel queasy. So choosing foods that you like that aren't going to irritate you. Preferably bland foods, I guess, almost the same things you'd give your child if they had had a stomach bug and they're starting to eat again.
Okay.
All of those kind of principles.
Right.
Because eating something, even if it's not the most nutrient dense at first, still beats not eating at all.
Yeah.
So I'd be remiss to say, like, no days off. As soon as you come home, I want you to go back to the leafy greens and the protein shakes and the 8-ounce steak. I just think that's too difficult.
Yeah.
It's just, you come home and you're basically have an acute kind of illness on top of what you're already dealing with. So in that initial phase, you're going to be doing a lot of those things. You're going to try to ensure that you're hydrated. So keeping down as much fluids as you can. And then again, you're just individualizing this to yourself, finding things that you like, finding and taking note of the things that maybe you didn't tolerate real well the first time around. Maybe it was the spicy stuff or the burger that you ate, or maybe it was something that you thought was a great idea that just wasn't. So you got to try to take note of those things.
Okay.
And then shortly post-treatment, not a whole lot changes because you're still going to kind of feel a little rough for those couple days. So take the same approach, and then from there start to build back in some of the food volume if you can. And as far as specifics go, this is where maybe you want to consider doing shakes, making shakes ahead of time with whey protein powder or plant-based protein powder, the fruits and vegetables mixed in, or something like the greens, the reds, the oranges mixed in there, especially since you're not eating as much of the actual greens, reds, and oranges.
Okay. So, Joey, what are the essential greens, reds, and oranges? I've never messed around with those.
So I think, and I think she means purples, but either way, Greens are basically going to have a good bit of nutrients in them. They're going to attempt to replace eating some greens. There's some fiber in there. There's, a lot of those blends. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing these things. But, and obviously you'd want to get them from real food, but she's obviously, like Dante was saying, she's going to have some issues doing that at times, especially depending on what type of chemo she's on. Certain chemos are going to make food taste metallic. Certain chemos are going to give you the mouth sores. You're just not going to be able to eat. You're going to want to eat popsicles and Jello. So there's going to be a wide range of things. But what they are, again, that's the greens. The oranges will get a little more into energy, detox, and then the purple is a little more of like an anti-aging, like antioxidant one. So there's nothing wrong with doing those. I think, though, first thing that comes to mind for me is there's really no calories in those. So if she's not eating, she's not getting any calories, but she feels like she is because she's getting her greens and things like that. And I think that could be a bit of a problem. So I would go back to what Dante said, like the shakes. So we have an essential meal that's going to encompass a lot of these things. It's going to have maybe not as catchy of a name in some of the blending and stuff like that, and the fruit names and stuff, and so, but it's still going to have macro and micronutrients in there. And then I would add in protein, especially glutamine is key to cancer, especially like the lining, especially if you're having the lining issues and those types of things. Glutamine is a key amino acid that's going to be found in the protein. It's easier for me to say than maybe for her to do, but if she could mix in like some protein with the essential meal and prioritize those over some of the greens, she may end up she's going to get the calories, she's going to get the macros, she's going to get some of the micros, and then like a daily essentials to make sure that she's getting all the actual nutrients. So she's not missing trace minerals and things like that. And then where she can eat the actual greens and stuff where you can. But again, mixing a scoop of that in is not a problem. I'm just, again, it feels like that she's going to be missing calories.
Calories are key.
She's missing calories, she's missing protein, she's still going to be missing some trace nutrients.
So even if we don't have the what did she ask about, pills of fruit and vegetable capsules,
right?
We don't have any of those. What we've
you'd
got
have to
are
take
the
a bunch
essentials,
of them. Right? Honestly, you'd have to start taking 6-8 of those, not to cut you off, but that's why. Yeah.
So we don't have those, but even if we did, that wouldn't solve the problem, because the issue isn't so much purely a nutrient one; it's a straight up calorie one. You're not getting enough calories to keep running.
You get the right calories.
You just know around your infusions that the day leading into it, you're probably eating less. The day and 2, 3, 4 after, you're going to be eating less. That begins to add up over the course of a treatment, and plus you're going to be, fatigue is high. Appetite's down as it is. And so you're just, ultimately you're kind of up against a lot, in that respect.
Got to get those calories to keep that fatigue at bay and try and keep that appetite up as well.
Yeah. And the other thing too, for the average person, I'm not typically recommending a meal replacement shake at this point, because we know for sure, we don't know anything for sure, but we know that liquid calories just aren't as satiating. They're not as filling.
Sure.
So if you're somebody on a diet,
right,
it's probably not the most filling option, but for this person, this is perfect. Because you almost want to start doing these shakes potentially in addition to meals if you can, just because any way to bolster, trying to maintain muscle mass just through calories and through protein intake, any way you can begin to do that.
Her meals may be so small.
The meals, exactly. Especially for recommending small meals leading in and small meals after.
Yeah.
If you have 150, 200, 300 extra calories in a shake, that's all kind of good stuff, then we want that in this case. Even
Absolutely.
This is even the time for sports drinks, which we're not recommending
normally
sugar-sweetened beverages typically to people, but I think that we go off script here a little bit.
You can go find some good ones too. You can get like the vitamin water zeros and the Gatorade zeros and stuff like that. You can at least nowadays you have some options on the sports drink world at least. But
But this is a very hyper specialized situation. This is not general advice for everybody. This is somebody dealing with cancer, life-threatening issue.
And then of course we got to pull the pharmacy perspective into this too, and to ensure that you go into your infusions, into your treatments on your best leg, on your best foot forward. Try to be adherent to your prophylactic medications that they often prescribe. So they might put you on a steroid. They might put you on Dancitron or Zofran, something like that beforehand. They might give you something like that for afterwards.
Those are nausea medications?
They are.
Yeah.
And the steroids it's a little complicated, but sort of that cocktail of medications just helps individuals tolerate those treatments a little better. And even if it's a small percentage of tolerating it better, that might mean that you can eat 300-400 more calories in a day.
Yeah.
Just because you're able to keep the stuff down.
And you got to keep that going because, Donna, you're going to beat this.
That's right.
We want you to be healthy.